I'm staying quiet now because the introduction is coming.
Usually when you stay quiet, you have to just say nothing.
Oh, okay. Oh, so that's how it works.
That's how it works. Welcome to Season V, Episode 2 of Backseat Designers. I am Gareth Millward.
No. I'm sorry. We released them out of sequence, don't we? So just say another episode of Season V. Didn't we agree that we kind of wanted to be able to?
Kind of, yeah.
Did I ruin the introduction?
Yes, you did.
Yes,
okay, I'm so
did.
sorry. I'll go back to muting.
The idiot does have a point, though.
Welcome back to another episode of Season V of Backseat Designers. This is absolutely the first time that we've done this introduction, and I am Gareth Millward, as always, here with my lovely friends Trolls Plymert.
Hello there.
And Frederick Olsen.
Hello.
Well, thank you very much for that, Fred. And of course,
anytime.
I'm wet. I'm wet now.
As ever, I have to try and battle through these two idiots so that I can introduce our very special guest this week, who is Stephen Alexander of Infamous Quests. How are you doing, Stephen?
Hi, I'm great, thank you. I feel you called me a very special guest. Most people just, they kind of just throw me somewhere, so that's very nice of you.
Well, you are a very special guest, and you have even brought yourself an extra guest with you today.
Yes. My infant daughter is with me, and fascinated by the process.
Well, it's good to have someone in the room who'll be able to say something clever once in a while.
Right.
Absolutely.
I get all of my material from her. She's a genius.
And if we ever have any uncomfortable silences, I'm sure the dog will also butt in and help. So that should be pretty good. We've got Stephen on because we have obviously in other episodes had his co-founder of Infamous Quests, Sean Mills, on the show. So we've decided to go away from the misanthropic Aussie towards the more gregarious American man who is going to tell us about why adventure games were amazing and why they're going to be amazing in the future. Does that sound about right?
I think that's great. Yes.
See, you can already hear how much more positive he is.
Exactly. Did you hear the Sean Mills episode we did?
Yes, of course I did.
I had to see how much back-talking you were getting.
I think the time when Sean recorded it, I think that he was I think he was wrong. I think he was stressed out. He was going back to school too at that point. Sean's got 3 kids now too, and I think he was just a little stressed out at that point. It's really funny because, I've worked with him for, what is it, 2018 now? Yeah. I've worked with him for almost 15 years now. And,
wow.
And we have, we've met and we've hung out and spent lots of time together. And he's actually
spooned?
He's a very, yes, we did. We spooned in the City of Love, San Francisco in GDC 2014.
Why are there no photos?
The photos. You see the guy who took them. He was great. Anyway.
I guess I needed an excuse to actually do therapy. I've been thinking about it for a while, but I didn't really have the catalyst. But I definitely do now, so thank you.
We can't put it on the blog post. Copyrighted Vivid Entertainment or something.
Any way to help. No, it's funny because usually he is seriously so mellow, so Aussie. He's like when he was in San Francisco, he was just. I think he was most amazed by the size of the pizza we got that night.
Well, he does sound like a lovely person when you converse with him on Twitter and such. And I've had many great conversations, both private and public. Well, semi-public. I guess Twitter is public. So I know he's a lovely man, and I know we caught him at, I wouldn't say a bad time, but definitely a misanthropic time, as our dear host just called it.
Well, I can't deny that I haven't been one to promote misanthropy myself. I have those days as an independent developer where I'm like, let's burn this shit to the ground, like everything, it's done, and you have those days, but overall you have to look at the big picture and be like, why am I involved in this? And I think that it goes to all the questions and themes that we're going to be talking about in the show.
Mostly Josephine, though, because she seems very interested.
Let me tell you something. This kid can't talk, and then all of a sudden she's like, meh, 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 meh.
Well, she knows what this is. I mean, it is a podcast, and it is an interesting subject. But I mean, let's get the ball rolling, and go back to when you guys decided to close up shop after you finished the projects that you had, that you were working on. How did that? We heard plenty of Sean's impact, of course, how it impacted him. But how did it impact you? How did you feel when that
nuclear
happened?
Fucking winter.
Well, honestly, I mean, it's sad, in a certain way, in spite of all that, because, we had great hopes going into this, and it wasn't hopes of, like riches or fame or anything like that. I had just the hopes that we could keep, make enough money to keep doing it, to make a living, to pay people to work with us, and to keep making the kind of games that we wanted to make. And so when something like that dies,
Daddy, I want to come work for you.
She's getting into this. I like it.
She really is. I think she hears me talking. I'm sorry. I'm like just trying to deliver a soliloquy here on the death of a dream.
I just love how every single answer to every single question that we ask you is going to be cut off by at some point midway.
Now I'm just picturing her going, "Dad, that was my fucking college money, you dipshit."
Right. Normally she sits on the floor behind me and is playing with toys, but no, she insists on being next to me right now, standing up, because she stands now. She doesn't walk, but she can pick herself up and stand, and she can walk if she's holding like my chair or me. But no, she's standing next to me, talking to me like she never does.
So on a scale of sentience, right up there with Sean Mills, actually.
Oh, just wait until 1 hour and. Just wait till 1 hour and then she'll be planning world domination. Right. You were saying, Stephen, sorry.
So, no, it was just that, it was sad, but at that time that, I made the decision, it was inevitable. I was like, as much as I like it, it's just, it's unsustainable what we're doing, I'm really proud of what we accomplished there with our remakes there with Infamous Adventures, and then with Infamous Quests, doing Quest for Infamy, like not only making that game but finishing it, releasing it, and getting some acclaim on it, and having fans and stuff like that. Maybe it didn't pan out as much as I wanted it to financially, but personally and professionally. Like, I accomplished a gigantic goal. There was a 12-year-old Steve back in the day who wanted nothing more than to make Sierra games. And God damn it, I did it. And I crawled through a mountain of shit, and I spent years on dialysis, and I got 2 kidney transplants during it, but God damn it, I did it. And so, you have to take that into consideration. Mm-hmm. And, I'm really happy with the games that we're finishing up right now. I'm having a fun time working on them, but that's it, because, I don't have the time I once had as a young man. None of us do. When we started this, like I said, 15 years ago, we were students, we were unmarried, we didn't even have serious girlfriends or anything like that. And now we're married, we have multiple children, we have
multiple girlfriends.
Yeah. It's the women, man. They're expensive.
Company is based in Ohio.
There is a lot of proverbial poontang in adventure games. Actually, no, there isn't.
It's very proverbial, as in it doesn't actually exist in real life.
Right. It's alleged to exist.
Right. I gotta be honest. Like, I'm still mystified that like I met a woman that I've been with for 12 years, And,
oh shit, me too. Not amazed that you did. I'm amazed that
no.
I'm speaking for myself.
No, I know what you mean. I'm like, I sort of feel guilty about it, because I'm like, no. If it wasn't for like some weird dumb stroke of luck, I would have been totally forever alone here. Sitting on a heap of McDonald's wrappers, crying into my soda.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
You can do that while in a relationship as well. So how is it different working on the projects that you have going right now as opposed to before? Because you've streamlined it quite a bit, and you're basically down to the two of you, right? Rather than a big team of people that you used to pay. So basically, I'm just trying to ask, how's it going? And I'm hoping you'll elaborate beyond that very, very flaccid question.
Very slowly. Like the process. The process is definitely slower. But at the same time, I've improved as a coder and scripter since we started this, because I had to, because I was like, all right, I have to do a lot more of the programming myself. So now the programming is divided up between Sean and I, and it's more streamlined that way. It's just the two of us working on it. We're usually in really good contact, so programming isn't hard. And I will make a lot of placeholder art, and then when someone becomes available who can work on it or improve what I've got, they'll come in and they'll help me out with that. But a lot of the assets that we have for these games were made before all this happened, so we had a lot of assets, and then just we had to concentrate on the programming and then using those assets in the best way possible.
So how recyclable are the assets then that you've been able to produce before?
A lot of them are recyclable, and you can cannibalize some of them, and you can a lot of animations. It's like, honestly, Disney did this back in the day. I don't know if you probably watch videos on YouTube. They will go back over old footage and they'll rotoscope it, and they'll make a new animation based off of that. There's a dance sequence from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs that Wolfgang Reitherman took and reanimated for Robin Hood in the 70s. And it's easy for us to see right now, because the ubiquity of home video and everything like that allows you to see it. But at the time these films were produced, you couldn't go out and just get a copy of The Jungle Book or Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, so people weren't as familiar with the footage. So I've been able to take some animations from Quest for Infamy and other games, and then I've been able to draw over them or use them as models and jumping off points, or combining and do that. And then sometimes other people will come in and help me touch them up and make them look better. And you learn to become creative in how you do things. And if you have to do something all over from scratch, you just try your best. Like, I made this animation for Rome to Ruin that I didn't think that I could, but I took like a week to do it, because I would work on it a little at a time and kept adjusting it. So I didn't have the speed. Like, when we were making Quest for Infamy, some of our animators could crank out these things like you wouldn't believe. But now it takes me longer. But I'm not really held to any kind of schedule. I'm just trying to get it done when it gets done, so I don't really worry about it until I put it in and it works.
Oh. Can I take a step back and possibly steer this in the direction of the genesis of, we're talking about art assets and stuff, and I mean, it is quite clear even to the adventure layman that the style that you were going for was very, let's say, early 90s Sierra-esque.
Oh, very much. Our games were definitely influenced by King's Quest V and Quest for Glory 4 and games from that era, specifically 90 through 92.
Yes. So, yeah. The advent of the VGA card, shiny, new, glorious. I mean, yes. Your Space Quest 2 remake, of which I have to interject here unnecessarily, is of course one of the finest works of art to ever come out of Adventure Game Studio. Absolutely nailed the fucking tone.
And it's amazing. It's amazing how something that is from such a narrow sort of time period and is very, very specific is somehow iconic of so many of those games. But it is. It's such a brilliant way of putting it onto a screen, I think.
And it perfectly captures not just the spirit of the original game, but also the spirit of the Space Quest 4, Space Quest 1 VGA, era. So it is a double whammy of nostalgic proportions. And I suppose the question I'm getting at is, what made you initially choose to go down this nostalgic road? I mean, you've done a couple of remakes, sure, and they were very much in the style of the 90s to 92 Sierra VGA games, but those were freeware. Now you've got the chance to make a commercial game, a commercial title, and you choose to stick with this style. And I'm just wondering, what was the reason behind that? Yeah,
honestly, it was because I set out to do it. I said, you know what? I want to make the kind of game that I wanted to play in 1992. Like, I wanted it to be like, I'd woke up and it was 1992 and I had heard about a game that was coming out maybe a year or so. And that was going to be the game that I was going to make. And, we took advantage of a lot of other modern, things, because it's not VGA. It is 32-bit high color. We have anti-aliasing, and we have we have alpha layers, alpha transparency layers, and the soundtrack is full digital, and et cetera, et cetera. It's like, it is literally like the idealized version of 1992.
Much like Ron Gilbert and Thimbleweed Park, we wanted to make a game that is what you remember these old games were like, not necessarily exactly how they were.
You got it, yeah. Ron nailed it, but he's Ron Gilbert, so he's been paid to nail it, for years, I'm just a dude who grew up on games who decided he wanted to try to do it one day. So.
But we are going to get back to Mr. Gilbert. That is the other Gilbert, the Ron Gilbert, or
not the one who has an apparent license to
the game.
Because I think there are some more similarities between you and him that I want to get back to. But let's finish this train of thought first. This Chuggle steam train that we're on. So Quest for Infamy in the classic Sierra style, and this was a personal choice. You wanted to play that game that never came out in 1992, and how was it received by? I mean, you're probably assuming that there were other people in the world who were looking for similar type games. Some perhaps frequenting some Facebook groups we could mention.
Yeah, there are. There actually are quite a few people, who are into it, and our ratings on, like, the game is rated very positive on Steam. Over at GOG, it has a really great rating, and we won several AGS awards. We were nominated for several adventure game awards. We were featured in Time Magazine for games to watch for. Like, that Quest for Infamy actually got a bunch of accolades for a little know-nothing group, and I'm really proud of that. And so it was received really well, and it, like, I suppose, in hindsight, the amount of piracy that it received was kind of correlated to how popular it was. I got
David
a lot
Chance
of
owe me money.
I got a lot of emails from people who it's just like the boldness of some people. Like I would get emails like asking for hints and stuff. They'd be like, well, I didn't buy it. I downloaded it. Does that make a difference? I was like,
well, kind of.
Yes, you don't get support from the game designer when you download it. I'm not going to tell you how to beat my stolen game.
The audacity that the sheer audacity of writing to someone and going, dude, I pirated your game. Can you tell me how to finish it? It's kind of like, I don't know. It's kind of like stealing drugs from a drug dealer and then coming up to him in a buzz and going, you got any more of this shit? Pretty good the first time.
No, it's like stealing like some really good weed from a guy and then being like, how do I properly carb this bomb? If I take my finger off 1.5 seconds before, I know I stole this weed from you. It's really dank, man. Like, really good job. But I don't know. I'm just not getting really good hits out of this pipe. Yeah, new pipe.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, allow me to commend the children's music in the background while you're off talking about bongs and weed.
This is perfect.
That's my daughter. My daughter's playing with noisy things now, so she said,
that's okay.
Of course.
This is by far the most lively conversation we've had this season. Granted, we've only had one other conversation, but it's up there. So I guess if anyone else wants to run with any questions, feel free. I guess the reason why I wanted to bring up Ron Gilbert was because Thimbleweed Park came out, and Ron has gone on record saying that he was sort of disappointed that it didn't reach the numbers that he had in mind. And my immediate reaction is, dude, Thimbleweed Park is so nostalgic it belongs in a museum, just to pilfer an Indiana Jones quote. And he's surprised that it didn't reach a mainstream audience. And I'm going, no, you got to own it. And my question, of course, to you, rather barbedly, I guess, is, do you own the nostalgia factor of Quest for Infamy?
Oh, without a doubt. Like, this is another thing though too, right? Like, Ron Gilbert, like, he was saying, basically that Thimbleweed Park maybe broke even for them, and that's really cool and all, and but he made that game with about 10 times the budget that I had for Quest for Infamy, so like if I reached the same audience that he did and sold as many copies as he did, like we would be like, woohoo, we're making games for 40 years, So it's all about perspective.
Oh, yes.
I do also think you were trying to do something different story-wise. You were trying to tell a story around an anti-hero, and you were trying to do it in that quest for glory fashion, even referencing the title directly, but going off on this other tangent that hadn't been done before. There wasn't a whole lot of room for anti-heroes in Sierra, maybe Gabriel Knight, but that's kind of it. No, but he's not really an anti-hero in that sense. He's not an asshole. He's just oblivious.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that did cause some problems for people who are fans of the genre. A lot of adventure game people like their heroes to be like,
heroic
King Graham, basically. Graham. And I think King Graham is one of the most boring Sierra characters ever. I mean, no offense. No offense to like Josh Mandel, who did a brilliant job voicing him.
I'm sure Josh would agree with you too.
Yeah. But I suppose
on a rival podcast, the Space Quest Historian, which is available at
But I suppose if you've got a blank hero, then whoever's playing the game can just impose themselves on that, and all the interesting stuff comes from the people that they interact with. I mean, Roger Wilco is just basically a blank slate through most of those early Space Quests. He's just this guy that's doing stuff.
Not really in the sixth one, but depending on who you are, that may not count because
that's not a Space Quest game.
That was definitely a thing about Sierra games, is that especially the earlier ones, is that you could sort of put yourself in them, and people really did that. But people also liked the backstory. Like, the thing about King's Quest III that really enthralled everyone at the time, and I remember this, was that they were like, oh, you're a slave that has to escape, because everyone likes to think that they're oppressed. And if you get to play as an oppressed person, that just feeds into that fantasy. So,
right. And it turns out you're royalty. Oh,
right, exactly. Exactly. You got it. And I never really considered that angle on how people would feel about Mr. Rome until after I made the game, because as a creator of a character and as an author, I can easily separate what I like morally, personally, versus what a character does. And I definitely find that Mr. Rome is way more. Mr. Rome is like part of the dark part of my psyche, the guy that is out for himself mostly all the time and begrudgingly will do good things if it serves his need. I mean, like, everybody has that selfish part of their ego. Absolutely. And like, that's the thing about it. But I also specifically wrote Quest for Infamy that you could play him up or down. You could play him as more of an asshole or less of an asshole, which is why you get a ranking at the end of the game. Like, there's infamy points, and like, there's like a scale. Like, if you score under a certain level, you're like labeled as Mr. Milquetoast, and if you score the most possible points in the game, you're called Attila the Hun. So,
well, there is that fine balance with because as the protagonist, the player has to somewhat identify with him, and there are examples from the past, the third Kyrandia game where you play as Malcolm the Wizard, all the way up to that shitbag of a game series called Deponia, where you do play as a rancid shitbag.
He is like the guy from Deponia makes Mr. Rome look like a Boy Scout. I love it.
But yeah,
I don't really like Deponia that much, but I like that there's a bigger asshole out there than the character I created.
Well, definitely. I mean, people hate the shit out of Rufus from Deponia, and from what I've read, with good reason. People have trouble directing a character to do something that goes, innately against their morals. Even though it's fun to like mow people down in Carmageddon, when you're in a story-based game, it's a different beast. You're actively making someone's lives miserable. It's not like Doom where you're just blasting zombies. Well, they're zombies. Fuck it, off with their heads.
Right. No, and that was a very big consideration. Like when we started making the game at first, good Lord, this music.
This music is absolutely appropriate.
You guys realize
does, but Steven, the good thing is it does nothing to undermine your credibility.
Absolutely not.
This is the sound of my breakdown. If you want to know what the sound what it sounds like when I've been coding our latest game, this is it. In the background. So yeah.
And it stopped abruptly.
Yeah. Like I was saying.
Assholes protagonists.
Like people when I first made Quest, people were like, I want to be able to run around the town and kill everybody, and I was like, that's not really how he works. And you can't do that in Quest for Infamy. Like, you can't just run up and stab everybody you meet. But like there are times when there's like moral decisions that you have to make as the player for the character. Like on day 2 in Quest for Infamy, there's this giant town bully who bullies everybody in town, and he gets in your face at one point, and you have to fight him, and you have a choice at the end of it whether or not to finish him off or to let him be. And because like I feel like that's kind of a point there. Like you could kill him, and nobody in town would be upset about it because it was self-defense and he's a jerk. Or you couldn't, and then if you don't, later in the game he does end up helping you out. So I mean, like there's things like that. Like Mr. Rome isn't an evil character. He's a morally gray character, and I think some people struggled with that. Like if people were like, well, he's just too gross, and then like other people were like, he's not gross enough. I was like, you people are either too clean or too depraved. People need to be more in the middle.
Yeah, I guess
most of us are. I mean, we all have asshole tendencies, certainly.
Right.
Oh yeah, if season 2 of this podcast, I mean, shit. The season 2 champagne. There was a lot of drink going on. I guess my question really was, how do you balance the blank slate versus having a character who may not be as wholesome as King's Quest players would expect? Because I think, when you're coming from the style of game that you're doing, like Quest for Glory / King's Quest, the kind of fantasy setting, people are used to having the cipher that they can mold as they please, and here you have a prepackaged character for people. So how do you balance that?
And could I just add on to the end of that question? Sure. Do you think that the people's tastes have changed over time? Do you think that the blank character is a product of the 80s, whereas what you're doing is something that's a bit more contemporary?
And if you could say that in 5 words or less, that'd be cool.
Yes, that'd be brilliant. Thank you very much, sir. Go.
Yes, I think so.
Oh, fuck, he actually did it. Oh, shit. Okay, the long answer now. We've got time.
All right. The thing is you do have he's sort of prepackaged. There are places where you can diverge and put your own choice within certain boundaries, but it's like any kind of creation. Like sometimes I think I'm of the opinion that sometimes too much freedom is limiting. People can't go anywhere. So sometimes if you set a certain boundaries and parameters and then work within that, you can make an interesting character that way. Like I have certain notions and ideas of how Mr. Rome is, but I always tried to put in options in there for other people to experience it. And mostly when I created him, I just wanted to do things that would entertain me. Like if it made me laugh personally, or if something made a friend of mine laugh or a family member laugh when I talked to him about it, it could go in the character. I mean, there wasn't anything that I didn't think I could do, except make him too goody. I never wanted him to. I never wanted him to like save the day because he was saving the day. I wanted him to save the day because he was saving his own ass, like always. So I don't think that this is funny, right? I think that the blank slate character is a product of the 80s, but I think that is still around. Like people like that, right? Like even you take a game from the last like 15 years, like Gears of War, right? Character in that's name is like Marcus Phoenix or something like that, right? I remember my brother,
Burly McBurlface.
My brother played the game, and I didn't play it, but I remember watching him play it. And you could make certain choices and certain things, but he was sort of predefined. But like you could still project yourself into it, especially because it was a third person or shooter, whatever. And so I mean, I think putting yourself into it is a big thing, and I think that sometimes they still have blank slate characters like that, but not as much. I don't really play as many contemporary games as I used to. I just don't have time anymore, so I just play what I enjoy. And
that's kind of why I started YouTubing, because then I get to play games again. Otherwise, I really didn't have an excuse to do so.
Right, and
but I quite like what you. I mean, some characters come pre-packaged, and for some people, it's hard to identify them, and with some, it's just an instant thing. And then you have those that are. I keep coming back to Gone Home, of course, but there you are in the first-person shoes of a person uncovering what is going on with her family. But interestingly enough, we never quite get the protagonist's point of view on it. She remains silent throughout the entire game. And you're basically just left there to take her shoes, as it were, and imagine what your reaction would be if you were in her shoes, kind of thing. So she is a separate character, but she is pretty much just a cipher for the player. Versus Tex Murphy, for instance, who's an established character but pliable in that you have all of these choices, dialogue choices on: do you want him to be a good guy or do you want him to be an asshole?
Yep. Yeah, I think you nailed it right there with those two examples specifically. Yeah, I think.
Yay! I've done good.
I think that Gone Home was so popular because of that factor. People do want to connect these days. Like the theme of connecting both personally and emotionally is huge to people, and not just in gaming but in life. I think that we've sort of reached a point in society where we're so interconnected with everyone around the world, and yet we still don't quite know what to do with it yet. And so people want to feel that connection. I mean, like, let's be honest. Let's talk about, what we're doing here right now. Like, the four of us are on different, in different places all across the globe, and yet I'm having a conversation with you guys about things that we all care about, having come from different backgrounds and different places. The weird thing being that Trolls went to high school down the road from me.
Yeah, that's still weird. That's pretty weird.
That is very weird. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I honestly don't know if I could have dreamed of this just 20 years ago when I was a young man. I'm still mystified by it. Like when I talk to my family and friends and they ask, how like my business is doing, and I'm like, oh, good. And I was talking to, my friends in Australia and Europe, and they're like, people in Australia and Europe, and I'm like, I really do, and I'm a nobody. I'm just a guy from upstate New York sitting, in a room, but through the sheer power of technology and the sheer force of my own stupid will, I have made connections all over the planet, based on things like this. And so I think games like Gone Home, where you can make a deep personal connection to the character and to a world that is not your own, that matters a lot to people.
Mm-hmm. Right, definitely.
Well, sort of that kind of idea, actually, of that kind of global community seems to have been one of the really key aspects of keeping the adventure industry alive. And I'm conscious that we're getting towards the end of the episode, and we wanted to talk a bit about the industry itself. So you mentioned earlier that obviously you had a much smaller budget than Thimbleweed Park, so the amount of sales between the two of you is obviously not proportionate. But I did want to know, how did you get the word out about your game, and do you feel that you were able to reach enough people and let enough people know that your product exists?
Well, honestly, I had some help from a good PR flack, a guy named Mario Kroll, who's really right. That's we used to call him Super Mario. We used to be like, "Hey, it's a Mario," and Mario he's just a really great guy. Like I've been able to hang out with him personally several times, and he's just he's great at what he does, and he got the word out about our games, and I'm lucky. I made some decent contacts, but mostly we did a lot of promotion on social media and in forums and places like the adventure game community is niche, so you kind of had to go to it. So I just basically did, and it was really weird how like a word got out around the game, and I don't always know how that works, and that's.
Can I poke a bear here just for a little bit? I mean, I love you guys, and to be honest, I think Infamous Quests is the if I'm gonna name a corporate entity that I have the most fun at poking and being sarcastic, it's definitely you guys, because
you can take it.
You can take it, and we kind of have a similar sense of humor. But
it's only a game. Why you have to be mad?
So I mean this in the best of ways, but when we were talking to Sean, I think the elephant in the room of this discussion is when we're talking to Sean, he was saying, like, Sierra fans, they make a big stink about the sort of games that they want, but once they actually get a fucking game that they said they want, no one fucking buys it. LucasArts fans have it so much easier. And I guess at the time, Thimbleweed Park was not out. So, I mean, we can kind of hold that over his head and say, well, apparently it didn't do so hot either.
But it sold way more copies than any Sierra kind of based adventure game.
Well, let's say it didn't have Ron Gilbert's name attached to it. I mean, I don't know if it would have fared better than Quest for Infamy per se. And not to say Quest for Infamy was a failure. That's absolutely not.
I gotta say, in today's modern market, the LucasArts fans really have won the war, definitely. Sierra is kind of maligned amongst adventure game fans, and Sierra fans are, they're definitely an interesting bunch. A lot of them
also think it's as simple as the Sierra fans possibly being older, because Sierra started getting really big before a couple of years before LucasArts didn't they? I mean, just
at least 6.
Not that many years, but I mean, Sierra was like, dad coming home in his white shirt and tie. I bought a game for the computer, and he puts it on, and it's fucking Mystery House or something.
Fred, have you been in the opium again?
That's a joke.
You're right,
joke,
but like,
that's a really good sort of point to make, is that the kind of people that had regular access to a personal computer changed massively between 1986 and 1990, and we can't overlook that.
Oh,
right.
I really want to hear what Steve had to say about that. He was just about to say something awesome. I
never say anything. I thought I'd jump in while I had the
chance.
Oh
yeah. That's why we let you. If it had been Fred, I would have just gone, shh, the man is speaking.
Oh no. I was just going on about, if you do look at adventure games, modern adventure games, and sales on them, ones that are more like LucasArts styled, they tend to fare better. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, because I friggin' love LucasArts games, like The Secret of Monkey Island and Sam and Max Hit the Road. Those two specifically, like I absolutely love, and I loved their Indiana Jones games, and I liked them, but I am a Sierra dude. Like I love my Sierra games. Like that's what I was about. But you can come up with a billion different reasons and a billion different ways to point blame or whatever, and none of them are ever going to be accurate because there's always an exception to the rule. You know.
But I guess what I'm fishing after, and especially with your daughter so close to the microphone, you cannot tell a lie. Are Sierra fans just a bunch of whiny cunts who say they want one thing and then they don't really want it?
A lot of them are.
Well, don't say cunt in front of the infant.
She's very young. She doesn't know what it means yet.
Peggy 18.
Know, and she will know because of you, damn it.
Not unless Steve explains it to her, and dear God, I hope he doesn't do that on the air.
So I mean, she's been growing in sentience over the course of this show. So in a couple of minutes she'll be going, "Daddy, what did the Danish man just say?"
In that voice.
Yeah, I don't know why she has that voice, but just roll with me here.
No, I'm definitely working with it. Honestly, there is a segment of Sierra fan that and I can't fault anybody for how they like something. But what they're into is Sierra, back in its heyday, where these are the kind of guys that will spend like $80 to $100 on another, not a boxed copy, but another boxed copy of Quest for Glory.
Yeah.
But then you ask them to pay $10 for a new game, they're like, I don't have that kind of money,
And I mean, that even with free games, and this is a confession I've made to you several times, I think. But back in 2011, 12, when the big 3 Space Quest fan games were released, Valhalla Strikes Back, your Space Quest 2 remake, and Space Quest Incinerations in that order. Space Quest 2 was an irritant to me. I'm sorry to say, but it was an irritant to me why people had clamored
dirty laundry.
Nearly more than 1 decade. People had lamented that Space Quest 7, the original Space Quest 7 by Leslie Balfour and Scott Murphy, had been cancelled. And people were clamoring for that lost sequel. Then you get not only 1 sequel, you get 2 sequels. What do people go for? And I'm sorry, it's a brilliant game, fucking remake. A story that has already been told in a style that you were used to, rather than treading new territory. I get it.
Admittedly, brilliantly so.
I get it, and I think you did a good job. But back then, it was a major irritant to me.
No, I hear you. And I didn't even consider something like that at the time, because that line of thought would never be in my head. I was excited when all the games came out. I was like, oh my God, all the games. And then I would have asshole people be comparing the games. And I was like, look, I didn't make this to compare to what those guys did. Those guys made some great games. There's no comparison. We made a remake here for fun. We didn't sell it. There's no reason to be knocking anybody else's game because it's not a remake, and that's you're right. That's the thing is that they want their old Sierra, and they want it a certain way, and and it doesn't get delivered that way. I mean, you look at Jane Jensen's Mobius, that game did not do well at all.
No,
it was not well received at all, and and it even had her name on it, and what can you say? I mean, there was, but this is the thing though. There was a contingent of people that were super supportive of it, and there are people that were super, supportive of things that we do, but they're smaller than the average group. And I think that amongst a lot of fan groups, there's a lot of talk and very little action. So
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I think taking away.
Sorry, how do you then find a group of fans that you can turn into customers?
You don't. That's why we're closing.
Oh man, that hurt. I mean, I felt a sting in my chest when you said
Schadenfreude.
It's the truth. I really appreciate all the people that did buy Quest for Infamy and did support the Order of the Thorn and did all that. They're great, and it's amazing, but it just isn't enough to keep it going, and afloat.
You know what?
And-
I feel super guilty because I accepted a free copy of it. I should have paid for it. I paid for Order of the Thorn, though.
No, really, like
You copy
no.
as well. Why did you
I
give
gave-
me a copy? It's my fault that you're bankrupt.
Yeah, exactly.
No, giving a couple copies to a friend, is fine. It's that's the thing, and I think that it's good. I think a lot of people that pirated it didn't, they don't realize that, like bigger companies, like say like Activision, they can handle it, because they've got a large pool of money that they work from. They've got stockholders and and shares and like they have contingencies if games bomb. Like we were all or nothing. We put all our cards out on the table, and we played a lot of good hands. We had a lot of good rounds, but eventually the game was over and we were out of chips, and that's just how it goes. But you had you remember that you had fun doing it, and then you do your best on your way out, and you give a smile and you wave when you leave through the door.
And I guess maybe one other reason why so many people pirated your games. I mean, I haven't looked at the figures of any sales of any games, but Quest for Infamy came out around the time when there still was Kickstarter, and the memory of Kickstarter had not been sullied to the point of ridicule just yet. Anyway, and you guys had a very successful Kickstarter for Quest for Infamy.
Yeah.
So would you also perhaps say that the reason why so many people pirated the game was of this weird idea that, oh well, they made a ton of money on Kickstarter, what's one sale gonna do? Like people didn't understand what exactly they were,
Yes, I think
bread.
I think that might have contributed a little bit to it. People have distorted ideas about how things run, and like we had a successful Kickstarter campaign, but honestly, the amount of money we raised is less than a year's salary for like a junior worker at some of the big guys companies. I think the amount of money that we raised for the Quest for Infamy Kickstarter wouldn't pay for 1 month's rent of Tim Schafer's building in San Francisco.
Well, he did blow some borders open, as it were. Do you think, like in retrospect, this is a loaded question, and I don't think so myself personally, but I'm just going to throw it out there. Do you think maybe Kickstarter went back to bite you in the ass somewhat, because either people thought that, well, since they got all this money, they're not going to worry about a lost sale or two, or you're still getting beat over the head with the physical rewards and all of this shit? Do you think like Kickstarter might have been, it sounded good at the time, maybe we shouldn't have done it? I think that there was some really great things about Kickstarter, and then there was some serious miscalculations, and there's a lot of overzealousness. I think a lot of it, for a lot of people that did Kickstarters, I think a lot of it was predicated on any kind of success after the Kickstarter too, and I don't think that's always there. And I don't regret doing Kickstarter, but I know that its time is done and gone. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And I'm okay with that. I think that. I think a lot of people are disappointed and disillusioned because a lot of projects either didn't finish or come to fruition, or they came out and they were of lesser quality. But I'm just glad that it gave the opportunity to a lot of people. So we had some opportunities, and some of them panned out and some didn't. And
I guess like as the personal life goal of like you said, the 20-year-old Steven who wanted to see the game that never came out. I mean, it was the way to go. You probably couldn't have funded like a project the size of Quest for Infamy without going to Kickstarter.
We couldn't have, and so we did it. And I'm proud of it, and I have that. Forever. I can always say, hey, I did this game. I did what I wanted to.
And I can totally sympathize with the personal accomplishment side of the story. And also, you'll have to forgive me for bringing up the Kickstarter rewards debacle there, but it needed to come out. Another elephant in the room, I guess.
Oh, you don't have to apologize for that. No, like I am, I am fine with that. Like,
Okay,
like shit happens. I'm trying my best, and I'm still sending out packages, every month. When I can do it, when I can afford to get them out, I get them out. I get out more, and hopefully we'll be able to finish them up sometime.
Oh, sure. I just didn't like hearing my friends, people I consider friends like you or Ken Allen for that matter, who also had a successful Kickstarter, and people started calling him a fraud because he actually refunded people's money and said, "Look, I'm going to wait doing this until the space venture is over." So that kind of stings me, and I don't want to bring up drama, but. Also, I guess Fred does have a question. It's stealing his thunder.
Well, it's kind of in the same vein, so to speak, not the physical rewards. But I kind of want to ask you, since you are definitely a storyteller, as evidenced by your thoughts on Mr. Rome and how he would be received. What kind of impact do you think it has when you have a Kickstarter tier that basically says, we're going to put you in the game. We're going to take a person from the real world, make a character out of you, and put you in this game, even though we didn't plan to. Does that in any part impact the story you're trying to tell negatively or positively? How was that to deal with for you?
No, it was pretty easy. Like, because I had characters in the story that you could put any face or name or image on, and I had a lot of fun with that. Like, honestly, the people that backed for those kinds of levels, I had fun working with them. I had fun creating a story. I had fun around it. Like the positions that they filled were already in the story. They just most of the time it was just their likeness, their face that ended up in the game. So I mean. I think that if you do it right, it could be done well. It never felt to me like a burden or like it was interfering with my storytelling at all.
Good.
What was I going to say?
Well, that was a very, very satisfying answer.
With what Trolls was saying about.
Oh yeah, bring it home.
No, there's, like lately there has been a negative aspect to Kickstarter that makes me feel really bad, because I understand people's frustrations, but I also understand my limitations and what I have, and and I'm a people pleaser. I want people to be happy all the time, and I would hate anybody to think that we had bad intentions when we set out to do anything. And and then there's just people that are out there on these things and in social media that are just they're assholes just to be assholes.
Yeah.
And
we've known a couple.
I try not to let them get to me, but like they do sometimes. Especially when you're passionate about something, and you care about something. Sometimes things go wrong, and and you feel bad about them. I don't know. I've heard some things said about me that they're like they're not true. And
yeah.
What can you say, or how can you defend against them? Because you're just feeding a troll if you do. So,
Yeah. Well, which is sort of why I wanted to bring it up because I don't like drama, but I wanted to sort of poke that bear a little and give you a chance to, set the record straight for people who are, unaware that this is going on, or, unaware of the personal implications that it has to, just fly off the handle and call someone a fraud on a public forum when they don't even know the person. I mean, sure, there are Kickstarter frauds out there. There are plenty of examples to choose from. Infamous Quests and Ken Allen are not two of them. And I really wanted to give you the chance to sort of set the record straight. Not to invite drama on the show. Absolutely not. Just
well, there's always going to be people that are going to want to shit in your cereal. So you just gotta learn to deal with it. You gotta know who your friends are. You gotta know who the people who support you are. And even if this is another problem with the internet though too, is lately, it's always the negative people that are the loudest and posting so much. All the good people have sort of taken off for the hills because they don't want to deal with it. So you don't get the support you used to. You don't see things like that. And but it's still there, and you have to remember that there's still people out there that got your back.
Yeah, they're all on Discord. Twitter is,
Right.
Sadly, it's weird for me because I would, had you asked me 6 months ago, what's my favorite social media, I would have gone Twitter. I've made so many good friends. It's a wonderful place. I love them all dearly. I've met people there that I consider better friends than people I have in real life. God, my friends are going to hate me for that.
We already do.
But now it is really draining for me. To be on there for any length of time, because for all the good shit that comes out, people redrawing backgrounds from Space Quest 1 and in 16 color SCI 0 EGA, for instance.
Oh yeah, that guy, he's great.
That looks so fucking cool. And then the next tweet is just, school shooting, blah blah, fuck this person, and oh my god, it's so fucking draining. And I don't mean to be a dick about it, but it's like my emotions
right.
just flip-flopping.
It's a very, very negative space to be in, definitely.
Well, the thing is, yeah, exactly. And the funny thing is we're all creatures of social media. I don't know. I was around when it was in its infancy, and I saw it when it was at its best, and now I'm seeing it at its worst, and it's terrible. It's watching something that you used to enjoy just turn into a heap of shit.
Yeah, basically because all the cool people are running for the hills. I mean, I've got, I'm totally hopped up on Discord now. The whole neo-tribalism thing. Like when the mob mentality turns sour, you head off into your little cave with your friends and go, okay, we'll build our own society in here, away from the giant mob. So that's where I am currently. I had a question. I know I'm kind of monopolizing this, but I know Gareth also has a bit of a kicker to the end of the series. So I actually do have two questions. Series show. Sorry. Vocabulary failed.
Do we have to die again?
Well, are you that annoyed with Twitter that you want to end the entire series right now?
I want to end it all.
This is Adventure Game Chat. You died.
We can always restore a game later. Come on, guys. Have you learned nothing? Oh, God.
Oh, we're editing that one out.
Yeah, let's bleep that one out. Oh, we almost made it through a show without having to bleep anything. Anyway, I have two questions. One is serious. One is even more serious. The first one is... what was that whole deal about Stranger Things and the Stranger Things games and the Space Quest 2 patch that you're releasing? Because that was a couple of years ago since that game came out. Now you're reworking it. Are you still stuck in nostalgia mode? No. Stranger Things was one thing, and then Space Quest 2. I mean, that was out in 2012, and now you're doing a patch for it. Are you still nostalgic?
I can tell you, this Space Quest 2 thing was me cleaning up an old hard drive, finding a copy of the source and saying, oh, wow, this is neat. Let me look at this. And then I opened it up and I was like, who coded this shit? And going through it with a fine-tooth comb and making some improvements, fixing a couple little bugs, just making a couple little adjustments. Like I was just thinking, this is a really great game and people are going to want to play this, for a few more years. And I wanted to make a version of it that ran natively on Macintosh because I've had a lot of requests for it. And so I've been talking to Edmundo Ruiz, who's does work over at the AGS forums, and he's an actual programmer and coder. He has like a real job, and but he's a great guy. And I met him when I was hanging out in GDC in 2014 with Francisco Gonzalez and Dave Gilbert and Edmundo. I met him there. Just a great guy. Like all those guys are great. Actually, Dave Gilbert came up a few months ago and had dinner. I had dinner with him and Ben here in my hometown. So that was really nice. We got together for an evening. So.
Bit envious, I gotta admit.
It sounds like a brilliant table for three. You could just put a recorder in the middle of the table and just record that.
Don't do that.
Because that always goes well.
Yeah, Fred tried doing that at Adventure X, and that was not a popular move.
It was not, in fact, a license to print money.
It was. I guess the reason why I asked that question, Steve, was that Sean said, I never look back. I always look to the future. What the fuck? So I'm guessing you're kind of more of the nostalgic pair of the two of you.
Yeah, sometimes, like if you spur Sean on, he'll do whatever. Sean is definitely always looking to the future and wanting to do something new. Like, he definitely is the injector of lifeblood, and I'm the slow mosier that's like, let's watch the Buttercups. And so that's like, well, we gotta have the dynamic, so he keeps me he keeps me a little more forward focused, and I keep him a little more backwards focused. So it works well.
Well, he did tweet me recently saying it's time for another Space Quest fan game. So I guess he kind of flip flops a little too. Are you ready for my very serious question?
Yes, I'm ready for your very serious question.
Yes, and then I'll pack it in for the rest of the episode. I'll leave you in the capable hands of Dr. Millward to attend to your wounds and shit.
It's about the shitting in cereal, isn't it?
Oh, it's even better than that.
Don't kink shame me, man. Don't kink shame me.
Oh no. Oh, we'll talk after the show. Can we believe that one as well? No. The absolutely serious question is, given the opportunity, knowing what you know now, with Infamous Quests closing their doors, would you spoon Sean again?
Well, absolutely. I mean, he's one of my best friends.
There you go. That's all I wanted to hear, man.
It's very serious. It is very serious. No, but it's funny. Sean and I were talking about this. Like, we met.
What, really? Spooning?
Yeah, yeah, spooning. No, but being friends. We met on Tierra, AGDI's former name.
Oh shit! Yeah.
We met on their forums, and we said, "Geez, I've always wanted to do this. You want to do this? Yeah. Are you on the AGS forums? Yeah. Let's get AGS and let's do this." So, that was 15 years ago. Like, we've known each other longer than we've known our wives. And
it's like being in a band.
Yeah, and like one of my best friends in the world lives half a world away, and half a day ahead of me, and and throughout all this, I've been lucky to have him as a friend, because he has helped me do things I never thought were possible, like making the games, and I think that's all you can ever ask for out of a friendship and a creative partnership. And if anything, I think the friendships I've made in doing Infamous Adventures and Infamous Quests between Sean and James Broom and James Mulvale, our composer.
Shout out to Broomy and Mulvale.
Right, yeah. Those guys I'm really, really super close with, and it's meant the world to me to have their friendship and to work with such incredibly talented and creative people. So, everything, the good and the bad, it's all been worth it. No matter what.
Warms. Yeah, that warms several parts of my body to hear you say that. Cool.
Well, it's a really positive way to sort of come towards the end of the show, I guess. But just before we do, I wondered whether, given what you've talked about with the industry and everything, and how you found it perhaps difficult to be able to make enough money from the one game to then be able to launch into the next one and then into the next one, do you think that the adventure game kind of industry, for want of a better word, is going to basically be filled with sort of semi-professional groups that can raise a bit of money in order to be able to pay people for their time, maybe take a little bit of time off work to be able to do it, but basically not your kind of full-time, long-time job?
Like being in a band.
Yeah. I think the majority will be like that. There are a few that are able to make a go of it that way. God bless Wajidai and Dave Gilbert. Like, they've been able to do it, and
he's
and like,
that's how he does it.
I love that. He's super smart. He got
it like a license print money.
He makes good good smart decisions. He's good at what he does, and and he likes doing it. And like, honestly, like, always love seeing Dave have success because I know that means more games for everybody. And every game that he has that's a success, I'm just happy about. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm biased because he is my friend, and like on a personal level. But I really enjoy seeing the success with his games, and I'm super excited for the world to see Unavowed because it's friggin' amazing. I've played it a bit myself, and it's a great game. And
it looks great, but I think what we were more gearing towards with the question was, I mean, I envy the shit out of Dave Gilbert, and he will confess that he has no idea what he's doing, and I don't quite believe him when he says that. But I think
he's almost Machiavellian.
Yes. I can sometimes hear him twirling his fingers, going, "They'll never know my secret." But I think we're more talking about people like Charlotte Gore and Jacob Janetka and these hopeful indies who do stuff mostly single-handedly, and they come out and they sort of break out the gate and go, "Right, I have done it. I have really done it."
I hope that we have more of those. Let me tell you, Jacob is. I fucking hate that guy because he is so fucking funny and good, and everything he does is fucking amazing. And I feel like a goddamn troglodyte when I look at his humor, and I was like, okay, I give up because this guy is great. What I mean?
That's how we felt as well when we had him on the show.
Right.
Holy crap.
Absolutely. He's great. I love what he does. And I seriously hope that he can do more. Between him, there's a few others. I think that there's going to be just a few people that can do it, but people love to proclaim that the adventure genre is dead, but it's never going to die. People love it. People love it. Like there's a stubborn niche that will hold on to this genre until the time ends. So,
but
adventure gaming isn't dead. It just smells funny.
Yeah. Well, going back to Gareth's question, I guess I'm just seeing it, wanting to hear if you agree or not. I think we're moving into the era of the auteur, for lack of a better word, because it's a absolutely shitty, pretentious description. But we are seeing people who can do this shit single-handedly and actually, well, maybe break even at least. But we're getting to the one-man band situation where previously it would be a bunch of people getting together in the rehearsal space, so to speak, and having to.
As far as adventures go,
shit.
Yeah, you're right. As far as adventures go, the smaller the team, the better. So with auteurs like this that can do it all on their own, they're going to be the ones that really bring the genre into new territory for themselves. So,
Stephen, Alexander of Infamous Quests, where can people find you on the internet?
Oh, I'm on Twitter quite a bit at IQ_adventures, and it's www.infamous-quest.com.
The dash is important.
Yep, it is. So that's where I am.
Fantastic. Well, we like having you on. You're a lot more upbeat than Sean. I think we're going to try and get Sean on later on in the series. So
honestly, I think you just caught Sean in a rough time. I think he feels bad about that interview.
I want him to be that angry all the time. It would be amazing.
I thought it was. I mean, the thing is, though, that given that, as you mentioned, he's in a different time zone, we have to get him up at 4 o'clock in the morning to do this. I would be fucking pissed off as well,
I gotta talk to these Danes and an Englishman at God's hour.
Well, please pass on our thanks.
You're right. I'd be cursing everybody too. This is middle of the day for me, so I can be all mellow and easy and not say anything. No,
of course you can. You're not at Splash Mountain.
And I mean, you can talk about feces and cereal as a hypothetical thing. Whereas if you're Sean Mills at 4 o'clock in the morning in Australia, your cereal is bound to taste like someone shat in it.
Right.
Let's just be perfectly honest here. We love Sean Mills to bits.
We do.
Yes, we do. Just in case he's actually listening to this shit, I'm thinking that I'm never going on those cunt shows again.
And I've never shat in a bowl of cereal before.
We do love you, Sean. Stephen, could you please pass on our thanks to Joey?
Yes, absolutely. I will. She is
excellent contributions.
She is currently playing with a. She's currently playing with a drinking straw right now.
Amazing.
Over a bowl of cereal.
Yeah, you don't want her to go too far with that. Trolls and I have some bad experiences, respectively.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I gotta go.
We have
stop
spooned
that.
as well.
Well, we will let you...
It was a pleasure talking with you, gentlemen.
Yes, exactly. We will let you go back to your child caring duties, and we hope to see you around in the near future. Thank you very much for coming on. So all there is really left for us to say is to say goodbye. So, say goodbye, trolls.
Goodbye. What about our social media and shit?
Nah, everybody knows that. Say goodbye, Fred.
Goodbye, friend.
Yes, Backseat Designers. You can get us at BS Designers on Twitter. What's our website again? Backseatdesigners.com?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. To be honest, if you've managed to find this show, you probably know all this anyway. And if you haven't found the show,
that's true.
Where have you been? Goodbye from me. This is a worse ending than the last one we recorded, and that is saying something. So we will see you next week.
No more for today.